Desperate digging in the darkness. These men scramble for survivors. Torchlight shining on shorn-off steel and collapsed concrete. Elsewhere, in daylight, the dead and injured carried out of devastated homes as flames rage on inside. Fatih al-Shami has been forced into a new home, far from willingly. It's a tent on the street. She says she has little to eat. No shower, bathroom or blanket for the 80-year-old. Just a strong wish to stay close to the rubble of her old house, where neighbors had dragged her out after a recent airstrike.
Despite the destruction, despite the shelling, I would rather die under the rubble of my house than go to Egypt. I'm not going to Egypt. They want me to go to Egypt and beg. I would rather stay in my house.
But even standing on the street in Gaza carries risk. Family units forced to flee from fear of sniper fire. Not everyone escapes the bullets or blasts, though, with each departure deeply mourned. The grief generated cutting deep for survivors of any age. Willem, Marx, Al Jazeera.
So Tareq Abu Azzoum is in Rafah in southern Gaza for us now. And Tareq, bring us up to date on the latest strikes, the latest situation in the fighting.
Yes, as we are hearing right now, the sound of the Israeli surveillance drones, the attacks on the Gaza Strip did not stop during the last hour, where the Israeli unrelenting bombing continue in the same areas which had been the center for the military operations and the ground incursion that day by day is expanding in the middle governorates and in the southern part, including Khan Yunis city, which was today got the lion's share in terms of the victims that were fallen due to the Israeli bombing, where at least 30 Palestinians have been killed since the airstrikes that had been conducted today against the residential neighborhoods of Khan Yunis city, as fighting there get much more furious, where Palestinian fighters are having regular clashes with the Israeli soldiers who are trying to carry out notable and breakthrough advancement in terms of the central areas of this district. Now, also the middle governorate, as we have been informed by residents from that part of Gaza Strip, have been under ongoing confrontations and also bombing by the Israeli artillery there. One of the latest airstrikes had leveled to the ground a residential building belonging to a Loh family on the vicinity of the Gaza Wadi. This area had been earlier designated as a safe zone, but right now, as Israel has started a complete new phase of destruction in the middle governorates of Gaza Strip, now more people, due to this unrelenting bombing, are evacuating to Rafah, and others are being trapped there, as been hearing ongoing and constant clashes and fire exchange between the Palestinian fighters and the Israeli military, who are also trying to divide the middle governorates of Gaza Strip into main three areas. Just they got a kind of military mobility on the ground there, and clearly the ongoing attacks during the past couple of hours had also led to a key damage in the civilian infrastructure there, amid repeated attacks against international organizations inside Gaza. And one of the main prominent of these was the Palestinian Red Crescent Society, which was hit for the third time in Khan Yunis since October the 7th.
And Tareq, as you and our other colleagues have been reporting, a lot of the civilians who've been killed have already been displaced prior to being caught up in the bombing. For those evading the bombing and trying to eke out survival in these camps, in Al-Mawasi, for example, what is life like? How is the situation there?
Well, surviving such a very iconic and also irony word, which completely describes how Palestinians are struggling day in order to get the basic necessities, amid living in very drastic conditions in makeshift tents, after losing the houses, after being also financially broken, only right now depending on receiving and surviving on the humanitarian aids that are provided by the United Nations. And the Palestinians, in fact, with more growing evacuation orders and also waves to the southern part of the Gaza Strip, they have no options left just to cope with the situation right now, after being also did not find any place to remain inside. Now they are setting up makeshift tents. They are forced to deal with all the difficulties in terms of the drastic weather, lack of supplies, and also the deterioration of the medical conditions, especially among children and women who are the victim of this ongoing confrontations on the ground between the Palestinian fighters and also the Israeli soldiers. We can clearly say that more tents are made in southern part of Gaza, in Rafah in particular, and more suffering awaiting Palestinians if the situation inside Gaza did not change, and also there was no any kind of full cessation for all military acts, as Palestinians are waiting eagerly to return back again to the houses, and or at the current moment at least to receive a sufficient amount of humanitarian supplies that would be helpful for them to face and to encounter these inhuman conditions that they have been going through since October the 7th.
All right, Tareq Azzoum there in Rafah. Thank you very much for the update.